And it just killed me. And that's actually, I called Dick McDonald, 80-something-year-old Dick McDonald, and when I was young, and he said, "Oh, the flowers of the orange groves in Southern California, and I remember it all." And he was told me these stories, and it just bugged me so much that Ray Kroc was stealing credit from those guys, and that it was an LA story that they were sort of trying to make into a Des Plaines story. Actually, the story in Des Plaines itself was torn down.
Right,
and they
rebuilt
and
a replica of the original across
the
street. But where the original was, they built a functioning restaurant. And I guess
this one's just a sort of a ghost McDonald's they use as a museum, I guess.
Yeah, and I think like Fridays and Saturdays during the summer, they sell cheap cheeseburgers out of the, they do kind of like Bob's Big Boy in Burbank. They do like the classic car show.
Well, the thing I love about the Downey McDonald's is that it's a real life functional thing, and you can go in there and eat any day of the week and like live the real experience. They actually added a drive-through recently in the back, but it's completely invisible. So I mean, it's a happy preservation story.
Nice.
But did you address? I had to look at something from my aunt. She's bugging the hell out of me. I apologize. But did you address the bells? Why did they stop the bells in Taco Bell?
Well, I mean, the 1964, 65, the original, the architect died recently. The original Taco Bell prototype design did include the bell, and it's an homage to Southern California mission architecture. So it's that slump stone, and it's got the arches like a mission, and it had the bell, and it actually maintained the bell in the design until they stopped doing that prototype. A lot, McDonald's, McDonald's itself has gone through this modernization where they're building the cube-shaped ones now. But before that, they had the brick ones with the mansard roof from the 1970s. Those, so like they had a phase. They had the 50s red and white ones, which they're replicating now. They had the mansard ones in the 60s, 70s, and 80s and 90s, and then they have the cube ones they're doing now. So just as any company adopts a new logo or adopts a new design, they, this is a little esoteric, but
there wasn't like a bell shortage in the 70s or anything like
that.
They went to the war effort.
But they, and then what happens is you get this like abandoned Taco Bell because they moved to their new Taco Bell, and Jose's Tacos takes it over, and they, I don't want to pay for the bell, I don't want to maintain the bell. Somebody stole the bell. It ended up in a high school football game. I don't know.
No, I didn't.
I always dig that, though, when you go into like a restaurant that if you couldn't tell from the outside, when you get inside, it used to be a Taco Bell in the 70s or 80s.
Yeah.
Because I don't think I've wandered in, but see, I'm not a big, even at my worst, I lost a decent amount of weight, but I never was a big fast food person, so I don't know. You really can tell there's certain decrepit.
Well, Taco Bell. For example, Taco Bell had a logo in the 60s, which was sort of the sleeping sombrero logo, they call it, with the guy sleeping under the sombrero. And that very unusual shaped sign, you would see the frame recycled to say some other, or like Pioneer Chicken, which had a great Conestoga wagon. They had this big Conestoga wagon, which is a weird shape. It's not a rectangle. It's not a circle. It's a Conestoga wagon outline. And then it would say, like, so-and-so's wok, Chinese food or something. And in the frame of those wagons. And one of those wagons just went to the Valley Relics Museum recently.
Well, okay, so, there's so many things I want to ask about that are popping into my head, but I guess try to keep some of these, if they're obviously silly questions, like the short answer, and then, because I have some big ones.
I just love talking about
this
stuff.
Like Pioneer Chicken, my only experience with that, I don't think I ever got to try it. There was one left on Olympic for a while, but it was such a nasty looking exterior that I just couldn't bring myself to go in. But everybody said they were awesome.
I've got the cure for you.
And it's gone now.
There is the weirdest.
Are any left?
Pioneer
Are any
chicken.
of them left?
There are two left. There's one in Bell and there's one in East LA. But the weirdest Pioneer chicken.
One where in East
Bell and one
okay,
in East
okay.
LA. On Soto, I think.
Okay.
But the weirdest one is the new one. There's the first Pioneer Chicken to open in 30 years.
What?
Opened in a Koreatown mall on Western.
What?
And it's
still open?
It was opened about 6 months ago, and it's a family that still like imagines they have the ability to do this.
The pioneer spirit.
They have the pioneer spirit.
Awesome.
They have the binder with the secret recipes in it. They showed me the binder. And they're making the Pioneer Chicken at this mall.
What was so
Western.
special about the Pioneer Chicken? Was it really
I
that
don't
good?
know. I'm not a fried chicken. I don't really go in for it for the food myself, even though
Well,
I know
what was
a lot
it that you
about
went
it.
in
I
for?
go in
Did
for
they have a
the
unique
architecture and the design and the characters,
The one
and
at
the
the
comic
Olympic was
books, and the
terrible.
toys, and the.
Oh, they had toys?
They all had toys. They all had comic books. They all had characters. They all had
Pioneer?
Pioneer
Oh.
Pete.
Pioneer
I have a 2-foot-tall fiberglass Pioneer Pete in my house. That came out of a restaurant.
Okay, well, one thing I want to ask you about, since you're talking about Pioneer Pete, is another pickle piper. Another PP is Pappy
PP.
Parker. Pappy Parker.
Pappy
Do you know
Parker
about those?
that
was at
part
Bob's
of
Big Boy.
Yeah.
And well, here's the thing. I went there about 2 months ago with my friend Scott Vinci, and we were both having dinner, and I see the menu, and I'm like, they have a box around it says Pappy Parker's fried chicken. And I'm like, wait a minute, I'm at Bob's Big Boy. Who the hell's Pappy Parker? The waiter.
Pappy Parker
wait.
is
What
part of
I
the
was saying is
family.
the waiter didn't know, the manager didn't know, the cashier didn't know, and so I was like, damn it, I need to start a Minute Mysteries thing, like a video segment on YouTube where I go around solving these mysteries around LA. But anyway.
I had a similar experience recently when I went into a restaurant and ordered an Arnold Palmer, and nobody knew.
Wow. The thing about
He did now.
Yeah, who is Pappy Parker?
Pappy Parker's part of the extended Bob's Big Boy family, the comic book family.
They had a comic book in Bob's Big Boy?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, they did. I colored
Yeah.
them in as a kid in little coloring books.
There you go. They were comic books. They're comic
They were
books.
Shoney's on the South. They were known as Shoney's.
Shoney's, Kips, Vips,
Frisch's.
Elias, Frisch's.
What year, if we can use the current terminology, what year did America become woke enough that all the Sambos went away?
Oh, yes, Sambo's.
Well, Sambo's #1 is still functioning in
No,
Santa Barbara.
where? No, they call it
Right
Sambo's
right on the
still?
beach, yeah.
They still call it, no.
And they have all the artwork in there.
What?
And they have the little dolls.
How's that
and
possible?
They Sam Battistone and Bo. Can't remember his last name. Sam
Was it
and
really
Bo.
a racist thing, or was
No,
it
it was
just
a guy
name?
named Sam and a guy named Bo.
I know, but why were people protesting then?
What was the iconography?
Because
I forget what it was.
The artwork for the 1890 edition of the book Little Black Sambo was not very sensitive.
think minstrel show.
And they had it in the. They used those in the restaurants.
Well,
or
they
what?
actually adapted that artwork into an Indian, a character from India, and a tiger, and it's
Oh yeah,
I
the
have
stripes that melt or whatever, right?
yeah, butter. It turns into butter. It spins around. I have
as tigers will do when they chase
So what
children
was-
around
yeah,
trees.
what was racist about that? Why
I
did they
actually
say those?
own some of those panels. I have the fiberglass panels from
Racist.
the Sambos. But they, it's the art. It's the artwork. It's 50s playful kid fun art, and that's kind of what I see in it. And I don't.
But you're awful.
Oh, it's a child playing with his pet lion.
That sounds
Or a tiger,
like a
rather.
euphemism.
No.
That's awful.
But I mean, with regard to Pappy Parker, Big Boy has a girlfriend. Her name is Dolly, right? And they have a dog, and the dog.
What?
What's the dog's name? I can't remember the dog's name. Sparky. They have a little black and white dog, and then Pappy Parker comes in at some point. And he has an adventure with them and takes them off to the south to learn about fried chicken. I don't know. It's like a story arc that in the.
So
Buffalo
Pappy
Boy
Parker's
comic.
just this creepy old man that shows up and takes children away.
He does
That's
have a big-
awful.
He has a huge hat. I remember that, and I think he's wearing overalls, or maybe he has a shotgun. Is that right?
That's awful.
Yeah. So
All right,
Pappy
I'm
Parker's
overplaying
just
it now.
One of the characters in Bob's Big Boy Land, like McDonald Land, was super creepy in the '60s.
What? What's that?
Grimace.
Oh,
We
yeah,
still
yeah,
don't
yeah,
know
yeah,
what
yeah.
Grimace is.
Hamburger.
Grimace was a villain. Grimace was called the evil Grimace.
Grimace was the purple thing, right?
Yeah.
So that was the inspiration for Barney the dinosaur.
Okay.
No?
Yeah, I think he had
You say
evolved-
that like it's a good thing.
I know.
He had evolved into something other than a dinosaur. He was a gelatinous blob of a milkshake.
That's awful.
And there's actually a costume at the McDonald's Museum in San Bernardino, which I've been thinking of
I
trying
bet that
to...
smells really
Ooh.
bad.
It would smell awful. Okay, I just want to give what was tons of money today. It's like Jerry
Hello.
We're
Lewis.
hemorrhaging cash, Carl.
We're up to 11 now. We're not even 20 minutes in. I don't think.
But they were all so psychedelic. They were so psychedelic that Sid and Marty Krofft sued McDonald's over this.
Oh, wow.
Over stealing HR Puffin stuff and the sort of their world of characters. And that all came out of LA. This stuff was manufactured in LA originally, and the company, PR company that came up with the whole concept of, you gotta watch those McDonald Land commercials from 1968.
Oh, yeah.
Traumatic.
The Fry
Oh.
They're
Guys.
really creepy.
Yeah, he takes the children by the hand, and they have a slow song, and they dance over the bridge into the magical world of talking hamburgers, and It's awesome.
I was never really bothered by the fact that the hamburgers could talk, but that they actually elected them to hold office, the mayor and the sheriff.
I think that's what led set up America was like all of a plan to set us up for poor leadership choices later, as evidenced by a certain human Cheeto now.
It's this bizarre thing that the hamburgers in leadership are so attentive and smart, but that the burgers that grow on the tree, the burgers that sort of flop around in the breeze, they don't really speak. They don't seem to have much of a character or a mind at all. I just wonder the different levels of sentient hamburgers.
You're really analyzing this.
I mean, I'm fascinated by it. I did a McDonald's history tour a few years ago out in San Bernardino. I do bus tours occasionally. I do a Halloween tour every year, which you've been on
many times.
Yeah,
Spooks tour.
But I went out to their home. I went to an orange grove to see what it was like to live here in the 1920s and to see the bucolic, natural Los Angeles, which we don't get to experience very often. And we went to the place where they made all the weird equipment for McDonald's. There was a guy that was really into medieval swords.
Oh my god!
That had taken over this forge where they made all the weird equipment that they originally ran McDonald's, like the giant griddle flipper and the device that squirts the equal amounts of ketchup and mustard at the same time. And all these oddball things they created to make fast food work.
That was like going back in time to a blacksmith shop.
It really literally was a blacksmith shop. Yeah.
Did you get to go to the hamburger orchard where they grow the hamburgers?
No, but we went to the fake store where they film all the commercials.
Oh, cool.
And it has 4 different sides, and you could have 4 exteriors of this place, and the interiors were all laid out for filming. It's in the city of Industry.
Oh, and it's 4 different sides. I thought you were going to say like fries, chicken McNuggets, but bad joke.
No.
Okay.
But regional looks for them. So if they want to do a commercial, it's going to air in Florida. They have a Florida-looking McDonald's.
They had different styles of McDonald's for different parts of
Well,
the
I
country?
mean, for a long time they didn't, but then they've sort of lost the idea of sticking to a very regimented sort of look. They have a lot of different looks now.
Can I ask, you mentioned, or just kind of alluded to earlier, political theater. Have you ever, chained yourself to a wrecking ball or anything quite like that?
Well, I mean, with the Downey McDonald's, I dressed up like Speedy. I was Speedy, and then Evil Ronald was chasing me with a knife, and there was some Caro syrup involved, and it was, it made the New York Times, and I mean, we got some attention from it, and we got a lot of television coverage of that. And that got them to change their mind.
Well, thanks, Kevin, because now I have this image of in my head of Chris swinging around like Miley Cyrus naked on a wrecking ball. That's awful.
Hey! But, I mean, there are a lot of cases where we want to do that, but we hope that, if we do our job right, it doesn't come to that.
Yeah.
But speaking of a wrecking ball, Adrienne has the best wrecking ball story.
Uh-oh.
We lost a building. It was gone.
What?
It no longer existed.
Actually, we did. In Downey on Firestone Boulevard, Harvey's Broiler, built in 1958 by architect Paul Clayton. It was like the headquarters for customs, and it was part of the cruise circuit that started out in Long Beach at Grissinger's and then went out to Hawthorne Hollies and then went to the Witch Stand at Slauson Overhill, and then it all ended up at Harvey's Broiler on Firestone. And they had up to 5,000 people on a Saturday night in its heyday.
What?
And all of a sudden, the doors closed on New Year's Eve of 2001, and it was taken over by a used car dealership.
Oh, geez.
And then it sat there as a used car dealership for quite a few years. And the very first time we saw that, we started drafting a nomination for a California State landmark, and we qualified the building. And then the group that I worked with, a grassroots group, Friends of Johnny's, they were very devoted to saving that landmark, and I just kept a lot of contact with them over the years. And then one day we got a call that the building was being demolished. And it was
illegally
without
a permit, without turning off the electricity or the water or putting up a fence.
Right. Gas and electric were still on. And it started at 3 p.m. in the afternoon on a Sunday, January 7th of 2007.
That's when you want to do your illegal demolition, is on a Sunday afternoon when nobody's around.
And I was heading out to Encino with friends, and I said, please, can we drive to Downey? And we turned into an ambulance, and we just raced to Downey. And along the way, I called every single outlet I could think of, and I called all the news, CBS, I called code enforcement and police, and so on. And when we got there, big spotlights were on the building. It made the breaking news, and